What is up, my friend? This is another Sunday sermon edition of the Anthony John Amick podcast. And man, I'm glad you're here. We're listening to episode number 9 today. And we're going to be diving deep into talking about why integrity is vital to success in both your life and your business. And maybe you're sitting here thinking like, all right, AJ, I get it. I have to be honest to be successful. Look, if this is what you're thinking right now, I'm here to tell you that you don't get it. Because integrity has so much more meaning to it than just simply being honest. So you're going to want to continue listening to this episode because it holds the potential to radically and fundamentally transform your life and business for the better. So with that being said, let's drop that sexy intro.
Welcome to the Anthony John Amick podcast, the one and only podcast designed to help you become unstoppable in life and business. My name is Anthony John Amick. My friends call me AJ, and my goal with this podcast is to help you remember who you truly are, so you can maintain your center in the chaos, embody your potential, and unlock freedom in your life and business. That being said, let's get into today's show.
All right, welcome back. I'm really looking forward to sharing the wisdom I've discovered with you during this Sunday sermon on integrity, because when I implemented this concept that I'm going to be sharing with you today into my own life, I made a lot more money with a lot less stress and had a lot more ease, a lot more freedom. And I also experienced a lot more connection and respect and admiration in my marriage. And by the way, this is exactly the type of topics that I constantly share and that I'm constantly training on in my Facebook community called Shift. And I'm telling you, it can be really hard to find a community of like-minded people who are committed to creating a life of freedom and success. So if you want to join the tribe, it's absolutely free. All you have to do is go to ajamyx.com. So it's ajamyx.com/community. Just click that join button and you'll be able to join the community. So let's hop into today's Sunday sermon. Scientists now say and have proven that a series of slits, not a gigantic gash, sank the Titanic. Now, if you don't know what the Titanic was, it was a 900-foot cruise ship. It was like one of the biggest passenger ships at its time, and it sank in 1912, and while it was on its first voyage from England to New York, and 1,500 people died that day, and it's still considered to be one of the worst maritime disasters like ever, and Hollywood even made like a movie about it. Maybe you've seen it. It's called Titanic. Imagine that. While many thought the reason that the ship sank was that when it smashed into the iceberg, it opened up a huge gash in the side of the ship. Yet what many people don't know is that there has been this international team of divers and scientists who went down to, the crash site, and they used sound waves to probe the wreckage that was buried in the mud under 2.5 miles of water, right? And when they did this, they discovered that the ship's damage from the impact with the iceberg was actually surprisingly small. In fact, instead of finding a huge gash, they found that there were 6 relatively narrow slits across the 6 watertight holds. Now, if you're open, have you considered that the small damage that's invisible to most can sink not only a great ship, but also your efforts to creating more freedom, more purpose, and success in your life and your business. Like every time you tell yourself that you're going to go work out and you don't, like this small slit is cut into your integrity as a man or a woman. Every time you tell yourself that you're going to wake up at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. or whatever time it is that you plan to start your day and you don't, a small slit is cut into your integrity. Every time you tell someone that you will call them back or you will respond to the email and you don't, a small slit is cut into your integrity. Every time that you tell your kids that you're going to take them for ice cream or whatever after doing something and you don't, a small slit is cut into your integrity. Now, maybe you're thinking like, well, these are small things. They don't really matter. I'm here to tell you that anytime you don't honor your word to others and yourself, it's actually a huge deal because the world will give you exactly that which you are at your core. This is the universal law of being. It is neutral and it doesn't care about your intentions. It actually rewards only your deeds. So if you can't trust yourself, the world cannot trust you. If you do not respect yourself, the world cannot respect you. So if you have clients who are taking and taking and taking from you, if you have people in your life who always keep ghosting you, if you have sales calls and people keep making up excuses, or maybe, you have clients not doing the work to get results or contractors not showing up on time, maybe it's time to ask yourself, are you fully walking with integrity in your own life. Now, most people think integrity simply means being honest and having, strong moral principles. And I'm here to tell you that's one definition, but that is not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about integrity's other definition that means the state of being whole and undivided. See, I remember a time that I was out of integrity and it ate at me every single day on a subconscious level. Back in 2008 or so, I borrowed $5,000 from my father to help get my band Trade Cities off the ground. At the time, we'd already made our EP and we had a vision to get us a record deal. It consisted of us buying an old 1968 Greyhound bus, renovating it, turning it into a tour bus, plus getting more t-shirts and some more merch made. Like, I knew if we looked cool and we made people think that we're huge, then we would be huge. I learned in the music game that a lot of success came down to image. Like, we still had to write great music and we still had to perform well, but we had that down. But I knew the next level of success for us was all about upgrading our image. So my dad loaned our band $5,000 on one condition, that we would pay it back in a year's time with 7% interest. So I talked the offer over with all of my band guys and they all agreed. In the back of my mind, I knew well, if the shit hit the fan, we're going to be good because I can sell all of our gear, we can sell the bus, and we're going to break even. So when the year rolled around and the band had actually broke up, I was left with the gear and this huge-ass renovated bus and a debt of $5,000. And at 23 years old at the time, that was a lot for me. So I paid my dad the 7% interest on the $5,000. It was like $350. And I asked him if I could borrow the $5,000 again to start a personal and business development company with two other guys, which looking back was one of the dumbest things that I've ever done, but it's what I did. And I used that money to buy my first iMac Pro so I could create videos and marketing content for this new venture. And when the end of that year rolled around, the business, I don't even know if you could even call it the business, it completely failed. And I was stuck with having $5,000 of debt plus the interest. And this time I had nothing. Financially in 2010, man, I was in a bad place. At that time, my girlfriend, she broke up with me. And at that time, I was such a loser that I was living with her parents and her at that time. And so I had to where am I going to stay? Because I didn't have a place to stay. My truck was broke down. I didn't really have money to fix my truck. And so I was actually driving my girlfriend's Jeep back then. So I had to figure out, what am I going to drive? Because living in Texas, if you don't have a car, good luck making a living, especially in the small towns. And also on that year, my parents told me they were getting a divorce, and they told me that on my birthday that year, after they'd been married for 25 years. And I was still reeling in a lot of hurt about that, right? If it could go wrong in 2010, it did. The only thing that I really had going for me, thankfully, was my health, and thank God for that. So here I was in 2010 with nothing. No money, right? I'd already sold everything I had owned. I had pawned one of my favorite guitars, didn't really have a home, nothing to drive, and here I was owing my dad $5,000 plus the 7% interest. Well, when my girlfriend broke up with me, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go, so I went to the only place I knew at the time, which was home. I went to my dad's, and I broke the news to him, right? And thankfully, he was supportive, and he let me stay at his house until I got back on my feet. And I told him that I'd be out of the house within 3 months. And so within 3 months, I'd found this small one-bedroom home down by Cedar Creek Lake that I could rent from a friend of mine for $500 a month. And I had managed to save enough money to fix my 1992 Zuzu Rodeo. And Dad never really asked me about the money at that time. Yet deep down, I knew that I owed him the $5,000 plus 7% interest. And I genuinely wanted to give it back to him. And I had a plan to make the money back, to give it back to him. At least I thought so. My plan was to start a social media marketing business, which, by the way, if you're ever in a hole, starting a business to make money to pay somebody back is a terrible idea. I don't recommend it. But here I was at 25 years old thinking, well, this is a great idea. I mean, after all, businesses need social media marketing, and they're certainly going to pay me. At least I thought it was going to be that easy. So here I was coming into January 2011, carrying around all of the subconscious guilt of needing and wanting to pay my dad back. Yet it seemed like no matter how hard I worked, I just couldn't come up with the solid payment of $5,350. That was the $5,000 plus the interest. And eventually, my dad would start asking me about it, and I'd tell him, hey, Dad, I'm working on it. And he'd be like, okay, cool, and he'd let it go. And truth be told, every single time that he brought it up, I felt extremely guilty, and I felt extremely weak. It was I hated knowing that I owed him the money and I didn't have it. Like, I wanted to pay him back, yet no matter how hard I worked, I just couldn't save up the sum total of the money. It was like I would work all year long. I would hire the coach to try to make more money, and then taxes at the end of the year. Somehow I owed money to the IRS, and I always ended up somehow in this financial hole no matter how hard I worked. And this pattern, it carried out for me until 2013. And in 2013, I'd bought my great-grandmother's home, which was next to my dad's house, and my dad lent me the money to actually buy that house, and again at 7% interest. Yet, unlike the business loan, I never ever missed a mortgage payment to him, ever. But silently, he was resenting me for the fact that I still owed him money from the business loan, and he was right. I did. And still 2 years into this whole ordeal, still working, trying to generate enough money to pay all my bills and save up enough money to pay him back. And then by 2014, I could feel something was off with my dad. So I asked him one day, I was like, hey, Dad, what's going on? I feel like you're mad at me. And after a conversation with him, I discovered that he didn't feel appreciated. So I asked him, I was like, hey, man, what is one thing I can do to help you feel appreciated? And he told me to pay him back the money I owed him from the business loan and to also pay the money I owed him on the house as well. Now, keep in mind, my dad was essentially my mortgage banker on the house. So it would be like the bank telling you one day that you need your entire mortgage paid in full. So I ran the numbers and it was like $30,000, something like that, including, the house and the business loan. And so I was like, okay, give me 30 days and I'll figure it out. So when I got home, man, I didn't know what to do. And I just broke down crying, feeling so defeated, but I knew I had to do something. So I called my mom and I asked her if she would lend me the money and that I would then make monthly payments to her with interest to pay it back. Now, I knew this time I wasn't making the same mistake. I'm not looking at hitting this home run and paying all this money back. I was like, hey, I can pay $300 a month until it's paid for. And she's like, that's fine. And I think we agreed to pay her 2% interest. She didn't want any interest, but I was like, Mom, I want to pay you interest, at least make money, please. So she agreed to 2%. And I was like, oh, great. So then I, made the payments to her. And looking back, I don't really know why I didn't see making payments to my dad as a possibility. Why shouldn't I have done that? It would totally relieve a lot of guilt and shame. And I don't know why he didn't really offer that as a possibility either. But this shit show, it became a huge lesson for me. See, I learned to honor my word. See, here's what happened after I started honoring my word with this entire ordeal. So when my mom loaned me the money, I immediately wrote Dad the checks for the money that I owed him. So I was good there on that front. And then I made sure every single month I made the payment to my mom, never missing a payment, so I never carried any unneeded guilt or shame into my business. I then made a decision to sell my great-grandmother's house for a lot more than I paid for it. And upon doing that, I immediately paid my mom off in full, plus the interest, right? Even though she didn't ask for it, I just wanted to hook her up. And then after doing that, a year after doing that, I had my best year in business ever, smashing through the six-figure ceiling for the first time. And I learned that by not honoring my word, I was subconsciously dividing who I was being. See, I was carrying around a lot of guilt and shame, and this guilt and shame was bleeding over into my business, and as a result, it made creating results a lot harder than it needed to be. And this lesson wasn't just about the money that I owed my dad and honoring that agreement. It was about a lot more than that. I discovered that I had to look into the different aspects of my life and align with the truth where I wasn't in integrity with my word. And I realized I had a choice. I could have sat there and justified and defended why I wasn't in integrity, or I could just align with the truth. I chose to align with the truth because I was hungry for change and transformation. And I learned that there were several small areas in my life where I was out of integrity, not just here in the money sector. I wasn't hitting the gym when I said I was. I wasn't coming home from my office when I said I was. I'd always be 10 minutes late. I wasn't waking up when I said I was. I wasn't speaking my entire truth in the relationship with my father. I was actually withholding how I felt because I was afraid that he wouldn't listen to me openly. And I had to go on a journey to become whole and undivided. And once I started walking with integrity and honoring my word, I found I was able to make more money with less struggle. It was like I had this newfound sense of inner power that impacted everything: my bank account, my marriage, my relationships with my family and friends, my relationship with myself, and even my relationship with God. In Revelation 3, starting in verse 15, it says, "I know your deeds. You are neither cold nor hot. I wish you were either one or the other. So because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I am about to spit you out of my mouth. You say, I am rich, I have acquired wealth, and do not need a thing, but you do not realize that you are wretched, pitiful, poor, blind, and naked. I counsel you to buy from me gold refined in the fire so you can become rich, and white clothes to wear so you can cover your shameful nakedness, and salve to put on your eyes so you can see. I'm here to tell you, my friend, maybe it's time for you to step into the fire so you can be refined. Maybe it's time for you to fall in love with the fire so you can see. And what is this fire I speak of? It is the fire of truth, however painful it may be. Maybe there are some sweaty palm conversations that need to be had. Maybe it's time for you to stop lying to yourself. If you say you'll be up at a certain time, be up. If you tell your husband, your wife that you'll be home by a certain time, be home. If you tell your kids you'll play with them or go take them to ice cream on a certain day, do. I found time and time again when my clients trust me to lead them directly into their fire, they are refined in unimaginable ways. They are able to see possibilities that always existed, but they didn't know they were possible. Some may even call it a miracle. I watch as they make more money with less effort. I watch as they create more connection in their marriage, even if they're on the brink of divorce. I'm here to tell you that you cannot be lukewarm in your word because the world will spit you out. The world will not reward you. This world is governed by natural laws, and one of those laws is the universal law of being that states the world will give you exactly that which you are at your core. So if you're not honoring your own word, your clients, your team members, your family and friends, they're not going to honor their word either. And on the flip side of this, if you will honor your word and you walk with integrity, your clients, your team members, your family and friends, they will start honoring their word. There's an old saying that states a rising tide rises all ships. By honoring your word, your tide rises, and as a result, it causes all of the people around you to rise up as well. And if they don't, then new people will join you in your new commitment to greatness. My invitation to you today is this. Are you willing to step into the fire, whatever that is in your life, without justifying or defending the current reality you're experiencing? Like, are you willing to surrender to the fire, knowing that God will refine you in the process so you may be rich, wealthy, and happy? I found that there is fruit in the fire. And do not be afraid, for in the valley of darkness, I am with you. So where in your life is it time to step into that fire? Is there an agreement in your business that you aren't honoring, or maybe there's a client that isn't honoring that agreement? It's time to have a difficult conversation. Are there areas in your marriage where you need to step into the fire and have some powerful conversations? What about your health? Is it time to start honoring your body and disciplining your mind? Whatever it is, my encouragement to you this day is to take a hard look at your life and align with the truth, because the truth, however hard it may be, will set you free. If you like what I'm throwing at you on this podcast, make sure you connect with me inside my free Facebook community called Shift for more of this type of content. I post some really good content in that group, plus every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I do a live lunch and learn with my good friend Jonathan Heston to help you increase your income and your impact. And you can join that group for free right now by going to www.ajamix.com/community. So make sure you join that today. That's going to do it for this episode of the Anthony John Amix podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Until next time, my friend, I'm out. Peace.
Well, that's all I've got for this episode of the Anthony John Amix podcast, but we have plenty more to help you become unstoppable in life and business. So head on over to ajamix.com for exclusive resources, information, and tools to help you break through to a new level of freedom, purpose, and success. I look forward to having you back for the next episode. Bye for now.